Welcome to the first episode of What in the World? A weekly radio podcast that will explore different scientific inventions around the world. I am Jenny, and today I will be discussing and introducing the topic of street lamps. Do you ever wonder, when you go out at night to walk your dog, how the street lamps on the sidewalk turn on immediately, or why lights from the street sometimes have a blue or orange tinge, while lights at home do not? Well, keep watching to find out. The application of science. You see, before the beginning of the 19th century, with the invention of arc lamps, street lamps were lit with only oil or gas from the inside, and they required daily cleaning because of the soot remains from the fuel. Street lighters toured the town by dusk to light the lamps, then by dawn to put them all out. This was a time-consuming process, and the soot from the lamp also caused air pollution in the surrounding areas, and the light energy produced was not extremely effective. I bet you wouldn't like to go around lighting the lamps all day, would you? Well then, how is light produced nowadays? Modern-day street lamps, or gas-discharged lamps, generate light by passing an electrical current which comes from wires connected to a pole through different types of gases, sodium and mercury. The electricity then causes the electrons to collide with the ionized gas particles, so that gas ions absorb more energy. When the gas loses some of its previous energy, the extra energy released becomes light. You also might be wondering how street lamps turn on and off automatically. We certainly don't have street lighters in this century. Well, this is because a switch in the street lamp, called a photocell, controls the flow of electricity into the lamp. When a lot of light reaches the photocell, it conducts electricity very poorly since it has a high resistance, and the lamp turns off immediately. When little or no light hits the photocell, it conducts electricity very well because it has almost zero resistance, and then the lamp turns on. Effectiveness of the solution. By using gas-discharged lamps, more light energy can be produced while using a much smaller consumption of electricity compared to other forms of lighting like fluorescent lighting. It is also not a fire hazard compared to incandescent lighting. Gas-discharged lamps use sodium and mercury as fuel, which produce orange light and blue light respectively. The colors are good for street lighting, especially since our eyes can only see orange light easily, but it would not be good for indoor use because everything would turn orange and blue. Could you imagine having a blue goldfish? Implications of the solution. Introducing environmental implications. But perhaps the biggest disadvantage for gas-discharged lamps is not its inefficiency, but instead the light pollution it causes that has long-term effects on the natural environment and ecosystems. The environmental implication of gas-discharged lamps is a huge problem of light pollution, which happens when light is directed upwards at the sky instead of downwards where it is needed, and this is caused mostly by messy designing. This surplus light changes the levels of light on Earth and drastically affects the behavioral patterns of animals, especially nocturnal creatures that hunt at night and sleep in the day. Female sea turtles, which usually give birth on the beach at night, are discouraged from hatching their eggs if the beaches are brightly lit, and the light source also has the potential to confuse them, so they will wander off to the roads and risk being hit by cars. With 200 species of birds migrating at night, overexposure to artificial light can lead to collisions between flocks, and over 10,000 migratory birds are injured or killed crashing into skyscrapers and high-rise buildings at night every year because they are attracted to bright lights. Light pollution also has a negative impact on our sleeping patterns. In many places in the world, artificial light stays on for 24 hours, and even the slightest exposure to electrical light during sleep can cause us to wake up several times during the night and also encourages insomnia. While conducting research, Thomas A. Weir of the National Institute of Mental Health found that men who were exposed to the natural cycle of 10 hours of light and 14 hours of dark, rather than the normal cycle of 16 hours of electric light and 8 hours of darkness, slept in a two-shift pattern with 1 to 3 hours of wakefulness between every 4 hours of sleep. It has become so drastic that a single fishing fleet in the South Atlantic is brighter when seen from space than the whole of Rio de Janeiro. Because of this factor, gas discharge lamps might not be the best solution to the problem of outdoor street lighting, because even though it is efficient, its environmental impact has become so serious it has spread all over the globe and affects many species other than ourselves, who have absolutely no say in the matter. However, better designing of street lamps could decrease the levels of light pollution. It is also a much more accessible method than an alternative solution being developed by scientists, which is bioluminescent trees that can glow and produce light, which wouldn't use electricity and would also be extremely energy efficient. Economic implications. Gas discharge lamps have been used as streetlights for several decades and are considered the norm for many electrical companies. They are also much cheaper than the arc lamps and easier to maintain because they have a much less complicated system. Since it is a new brand of light technology, the risks involved in LED lighting are very high, especially if chosen in favor of the cheaper and well-known technology of gas discharge lamps. Also, because of how long LED bulbs last, almost 10 times as long as normal bulbs, less customers will be buying replacements, which will affect the profit of many stores. The economic implication in this case is more important than the environmental implication for gas discharge lamps, simply because the solution for light pollution has not been developed yet, which is bioluminescent trees, and if we use LED lights as streetlights, it will still cause nearly the same amount of light pollution. So why shouldn't we use the cheaper technology and also the one we're most familiar with, especially if it's going to benefit the whole economy? I hope you have enjoyed the first episode of What in the World and that you have learned a lot about street lamps, how they work, and how they affect our lives. Thank you for listening, and please tune into the next episode next week.